And believe me, I did a lot of research on it. And according to all the research, it was way worse than that, anything I showed you.
If I put down exactly what happened, it's too hard to take. No, there have been a lot of obstacles thrown in the way.
Also, congratulations on your appointment by President Trump.
Yeah, well, you come with nothing, you go with nothing. Everything in between is just a bumpy adventure, right, Sean? I'm living in gratitude. Trump's out, I found out I was some kind of ambassador at the same time as you did, probably on a tweet. So I was surprised, but hey, I'm ready, willing, and able to be of service in any way I can.
And how are we supposed to know the good guys from the bad guys? Well, we were given a standard by which to judge them. You know, by their fruits, you'll know them. By their fruits. Anybody seen any good fruit lately? Well, it's tough. And look, I'm a pretty sinful guy. I mean, I'm as venal as the next guy. But I know the difference between a shepherd and a hireling. And I think that the vast majority...
This time, it's actor and filmmaker Mel Gibson who's stealing the spotlight. Known for his bold opinions and razor-sharp criticism, Gibson has re-emerged in the public eye with a fresh controversy. But surprisingly, his latest remarks aren't aimed at Hollywood or even political leaders. Instead, he's taking aim at a popular daytime talk show, accusing it of disguising a propaganda-driven agenda beneath its lighthearted jokes and chatter. The claim alone has stirred up plenty of attention, but Gibson didn't stop there. He argued that the show acts as a vehicle for spreading divisive ideas and shaping opinions through heated debates. While his comments have sparked national conversations, the moment that really caught everyone's attention came from Sunny Hostin, whose fiery outburst became the undeniable highlight of the entire exchange.
I mean, with all this talk of building walls and stuff like that, I think it's worth remembering that if you look at the servicemen and the military in this country, a lot of them have names like Ramirez and Hernandez and Rodriguez. And just from my reading, and it's interesting that many of these men fight and die for their country and women, and some of them don't even get their citizenship until after they're dead. So, you know, I think it's talk of walls and so forth is nonsensical.
Without hesitation, he zeroed in on The View, calling the long-running...
It all started during a podcast interview when Mel Gibson was asked about media bias and its influence on public perception. Without hesitation, he turned his attention to The View, calling it a textbook example of carefully engineered narrative control. Gibson didn't mince words. He accused the long-running talk show of twisting discussions to serve a political agenda, all while presenting itself as a space for open dialogue. In his view, the co-hosts, particularly Sunny Hostin, aren't simply sharing opinions. Instead, he believes they're delivering carefully crafted talking points designed to shape how viewers think. Sure, the program ends with light jokes and familiar celebrity chatter, but Gibson wasn't fooled. With a sharp sneer, he declared, "It's propaganda dressed up as entertainment. They're not just chatting on a couch. They're telling you what to believe, what emotions to feel, and even who to dislike. The trick is, they do it so smoothly that most people don't even notice." Gibson went further, pointing to specific episodes as red flags. He argued that segments are deliberately written to ridicule dissenting voices while presenting certain ideologies as the only admirable stance. To him, this isn't harmless banter. It's a deliberate effort to sway an audience under the guise of casual conversation.
And everybody's got their crap, you know. But, like, this morning, for example, I would be surprised if my home is still there.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. The Palisades is on fire.
Yeah.
My friend Tom Segura, his house is gone.
Yeah.
This is where he used to live. He sold it, luckily.
Yeah, I have a son. He's in the sort of volunteer fire brigade, Milo. I call him the mayor of Malibu. And he's running around. I asked him, "How's things looking there, Milo?" He says, "Not good, Pops." He says, "Your neighborhood." And he sent me a video of my neighborhood, and it's in flames. It looks like an inferno.
Yeah, we were just talking about the wildfire situation and how crazy it is that they spent $24 billion last year on the homeless.
Yeah.
And what did they spend on preventing these wildfires?
Zero.
Zip.
And in 2019, I think Newsom said, you know, I'm going to take care of the forests and maintain the forests and do all that kind of stuff. He didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything. And then on top of that, they cut the water off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's all funny. And then I think all our tax dollars probably went for Gavin's hair gel.
Gibson went even further, claiming that The View's production team doesn't act alone. According to him, they coordinate with political strategists and media consultants to ensure the show's message always aligns with mainstream narratives. Sunny Hoon, one of the co-hosts, wasn't about to let that accusation slide. During a live broadcast, she pushed back fiercely, insisting that Gibson was tearing down successful women just to grab headlines. Clearly frustrated, Hoon dismissed his remarks as nothing more than conspiracy-laden nonsense. She didn't hold back, questioning why Gibson believed he had the authority to lecture anyone about bias or misinformation. Maybe he should work on his own issues before coming after us, she added, sharply. But Hoon wasn't finished. Her voice grew stronger as she delivered a fiery rebuke, warning that Gibson's rhetoric was both reckless and harmful. She argued that comments like his only deepened divisions in an already polarized society. One of her most biting lines quickly went viral. "What we do here is have honest, uncensored conversations. If people like him can't handle that, maybe that's the real problem." The backlash was immediate, sparking an online debate over who was truly in the right, Gibson for calling out the show, or Hoon for shutting him down.
I just wanted to put a button on what I was saying. You know, there's a difference between free speech and hate speech, and we know that. Free speech, I welcome. I think everyone welcomes. It's your constitutional right. When you start delving into hate speech, which is what is happening all over social media, there's a problem with that. When you start delving into misinformation and disinformation, there's a problem with that. Meta's new hate speech guidelines permit users to call people in the LGBTQ plus community mentally ill. That is harmful. That is harmful. And the last thing I'll say is, let's just break it down to bare bones. This is about President-elect Trump going back to the White House. Mark Zuckerberg and Meta dined with Trump at Mar-a-Lago in November. Meta just donated $1 million to support his inauguration. Zuckerberg also elevated Joel Kaplan, the highest-ranking Meta executive closest to the Republican Party.
Social media quickly caught fire with hashtags like #MelExposesTheView and #SunnyBreakdown dominating online conversations. The clash wasn't cooling down anytime soon. Gibson doubled down with a follow-up statement that only added fuel to the flames. While some applauded Sunny Hostin for standing her ground, others accused her of dodging the argument rather than addressing it directly. Gibson seized on the backlash as proof of his point. They wouldn't be so defensive if they weren't guilty of exactly what I'm calling them out for, he insisted. The truth has a way of making people uncomfortable, especially when it exposes hypocrisy. As the feud grew, media analysts stepped in to weigh the broader implications. Some argued that Gibson's comments shed light on real concerns about bias in hybrid programs that blur the line between journalism and entertainment. Others brushed it off as little more than an attempt to keep his name alive in today's cultural battles. Hostin, however, wasn't backing down. In a recent interview, she promised to revisit Gibson's accusations on a future episode of The View. She vowed to set the record straight while also framing his attacks as being rooted in misogyny. Adding a lighter jab, her co-host Joy Behar quipped that Gibson's next project might be uncovering the hidden messages in Disney movies. Meanwhile, Gibson's supporters saw the host's heated reactions as confirmation of his claims. One journalist summed it up bluntly: "They've spent years dishing out criticism but can't handle even a fraction of it without coming unglued." At this point, there's no sign that the standoff between Mel Gibson and The View is coming to an end. There is no denying that Gibson's sharp criticism has set off a wave of debate, forcing people to ask tough questions about how much influence talk shows like The View, or as Gibson sarcastically called it, The Perceive, really have on shaping public opinion. Whether you see him as a truth-teller exposing uncomfortable realities, or simply as a provocateur stirring controversy to stay relevant, one thing is clear: his words hit a nerve. Remember, Gibson didn't just call the show biased, he accused it of operating as a carefully crafted machine designed to guide viewers' thoughts and emotions. He argued that the co-hosts, especially Sunny Hostin, push pre-packaged talking points under the guise of casual conversation, turning entertainment into subtle propaganda. And when Hostin fired back, calling his remarks conspiracy-laden nonsense, the exchange only deepened the divide. Her passionate outburst, which went viral, became a headline in its own right. Social media lit up with hashtags like #MelExposesTheView and Sunny Breakdown, keeping the clash alive online. Supporters saw Gibson's persistence as courage, while critics dismissed it as deflection. Even media analysts couldn't agree. Some insisted his accusations highlight a valid problem in shows that blur the line between journalism and entertainment, while others waved it off as a ploy for relevance. Still, Gibson stayed firm, claiming they wouldn't be so defensive if they weren't guilty. Meanwhile, Hostin doubled down too, promising to address his remarks in future episodes and framing them as rooted in misogyny. The back and forth shows no signs of ending, and maybe that's the point. So what do you think? Is Gibson shining a light on media hypocrisy, or is he simply stirring drama? If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. A new video will be out soon. See you there.